Welcome to episode 64 of Phumblepodcast. I have the distinguished honor of having a very renowned guest with us tonight or today. And he's an author. He has published his book, Midnight Musings, and it is out, I believe, on Amazon. And where else can they find Midnight Musing?
Amazon, like you mentioned, Google Chrome, Barnes & Noble online, Kudu, I believe it is. And those are the four main ones.
Okay, excellent. So basically, it's very easy to find the book, and I'll have that in the description as well as on the screen here. It's for you to see, for the audience. And amazing. And we discussed beforehand about one of the poems in there that I'd love to get into. But real quickly, how long have you been a fan of writing? From what age did you enjoy writing?
Well, it's funny. I've been around for a couple of years here. But my the first piece I ever wrote, without going into huge detail, I was 14. And I was in English class, freshman in high school, and my English teacher, and oddly enough, that was the only class I pulled A's in. Everything else was terrible, C's and B's. Yeah. But my English teacher, Mrs. Westfall, she was a big influence on me. And what I would do, because I was always have been kind of singular in nature, I suppose. What was relaxing for me is I would ride my bike, on my after school and what have you. And I mean, I would ride 40, 50 miles. I would love it, and ride into the country. And on one such occasion, I always had this habit. Of course, that's sort of days gone by now with computers and whatnot, but I always kept a little pad of paper with me and a pencil. And and one day I was riding along, and it was pretty warm out, and so I stopped by a river, and I wanted to just relax in the shade for a bit. And as I was doing that, I was sitting there just observing. I looked up and I saw this leaf coming down. It was autumn, and I watched as it sort of worked its way into a little what I call a side stream. It was like a rivulet, and I watched it hit the water, and there was a series of rocks and everything, and the leaf was making its way down, and eventually it hit what we would call the rapids in the stream, right? And the rapids became too much for it. And I thought of it as a little boat, and the water began to come over the bow, as it were. And it struggled and it tried, but then it sank to the bottom of the stream, and I was like, wow, that's fascinating. So I had my little trusty pad and pencil, and I wrote everything down, and it was called Travels of a Leaf. I had never written anything before. I turned it in the following day to my English teacher as extra credit. And, she read it and she became very angry with me. Oh, and wow. Yeah, and I was her favorite, And I'm like, Mrs. Westphal, what's the matter? I don't understand. She's very adamant. She said, I want to know where you got this. I'm so disappointed in you that you would, take this from another source and try to pawn it off as your own. And I looked, and of course, in those days, you always respected your teachers. Okay? Yeah. So, but I don't, it's like my integrity was being impugned. And I was like, wait a minute. No,
Yeah.
I
It was
wrote
so
this.
good. It was so good. She thought you were
I didn't
plagiarizing.
know. Yeah, and I didn't know. And,
Yeah.
I got angry and I proceeded to tell her how it came about. And she looked at me and she said, "You really did write this, didn't you?" I said, "Yes, I did."
Mm-hmm.
And she actually apologized and, gave me, of course, extra credit. And she looked at me and she said, "You've got a real gift. You need to continue to use that gift."
Yeah.
And that was my first piece
Wow.
there.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. At 14. Wow. That's great. I relate not from the writing side as far as literature or poems, um, but from the musical side, because that's where my strengths was always in music.
Oh,
Yeah. So I
yeah.
was from a young age. I relate to that almost euphoria when you feel like,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
speaks
Well, I'll
to you.
tell you, I mean, I
Yeah.
know you know this, but, music, I don't know what I would do without music. Um, but it brings life to the words that we write,
Absolutely. And
So, yeah.
a lot of great music that's been written, whether it's classical rock or the modern pop or even classical music or jazz, they are hand in hand with poems. A lot of poetry has
Mhm.
influenced even Beethoven, right? He wrote pieces based on poems during his time. There's a lot of some of his more famous pieces were influenced by some poets. So
Yeah. Yeah. He's actually, Beethoven is a hero of mine.
yeah, a
He
lot of
really
people,
is.
yeah.
I mean, not that he knows that, but it's true.
Yeah, he's hearing right now. Uh, well, that's great. So your first basically your first crack at writing was from this leaf, and the rest is history, as they say. So now let's shift into this poem that's within the book Midnight Musing. um and I read
Yes.
it. You sent this to me recently, and I looked over, and it's beautifully worded. And I want to actually pull it up right now as we're talking about it, because there was a few points in there that really stuck with me. um the title didn't come through when you sent it to me. So what is the title of this poem specifically?
Oh, it is Change Your Road, Change Your Life.
Change your road, change your life. Yeah, just that alone, a lot of people can infer or see the implications. But you have and please, I'd like you to elaborate on this poem, because it's a true
Sure.
story based
Yeah,
on
if I
your.
may,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, of
Sure.
course, go ahead.
Well, we all, be it writing or any other arena, really, we pull from our life experience a lot. I know I do.
Yeah.
And much of what's in the book itself is, which I didn't really realize that entirely at the time, but it was from my life. That particular piece, it came about because, excuse me, in those days before I retired, I worked a lot, like many folks. I averaged 70 hours a week, and that's just how it was. I mean, that's what the job called for. I ran a shop, and my mom, she was in a nursing home, and I missed her all the time, actually. But because of my responsibilities, I had one day a week that I could go see her. It was on Saturday when we closed early. It was only 8 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
And so I would finish up my day, jump on the expressway, and head out to go see her. My time with her was precious because there wasn't a lot of it. And I knew one way to get to the nursing home in the particular city that she was in. Port Huron it was up here. And I only knew one way, and I wasn't using GPS and anything like that. And So the problem was that one way that I knew took me 15 to 20 minutes out of my way to go see her.
Mm.
But it was the only way I knew. And Port Huron was my nemesis. Okay. I would get lost there all the time.
Mm.
So I just went the way I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And each Saturday, I remember this distinctly, I'd be driving up there and I'd be grousing the whole time, you know. And, you know, if anybody looked over at me in the car, they'd think I was nuts, I suppose. But, you know, I'd be angry because this is taking me extra time that I could spend with my mom.
Yeah.
And I knew that there was a better way.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very concerned about, shows how silly we can be. I was very concerned about getting turned around and getting lost, you know, in jungles of Port Huron and then losing time with my mom, you know. Yeah. And then one Saturday, I still to this day don't know how it came about. I was able to leave an hour early. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, well, self, you have an extra hour. Take the other way. If you get turned around, if you get a little lost, you're not going to lose any time with Mom. That made sense. So I went the other way. And as I was, you know, taking that other way, I discovered that I did not get turned around. I did not get lost. And I cut 20 minutes off my time.
Yeah.
And I pulled into the parking lot of a nursing home. Wonderful folks there. But as I pulled into the parking lot, I stopped. You know, you have those moments of clarity. And I stopped and I was like, 2 months you've been complaining every Saturday about losing time and what have you. You took the other way. Not only did you not get lost, you cut 20 minutes off your time. And I just kind of shook my head and I laughed inside the car and I said, yeah, change your road, change your life. And I was like, oh my God, change your road, change your life. That's life.
Yeah.
You know, because in our own respective lives, on our own life path, you know, we can be going along a particular road that we're really not happy with. Mm-hmm. You know, we're not comfortable. It's what my nephew would call comfortable misery, you know.
Right.
And we know there's a better way, but we're afraid to take it because we might fail. We might get lost along the way, you know.
Fear is is a handicap. If we
it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And that's how that piece came to be. You know, wow. I guess that's my point. You know, it was like, yeah, okay, I took the other path and I didn't get lost. And, you know, so that's how it, yeah, you're right. That's how it relates to life.
Yeah, it's great. And I'm looking over the poem here. And there was a line in here that I'm looking for that really stuck out to me. Let's see as I look for it here. So how soon after coming up with that title in the car, as you had saved 20 minutes?
I wrote it that. I mean, I wrote enough because I do that. I've learned.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
We're supposed to learn. You know, and when an idea hits you, I used to think, golly, that's so good. I'll never forget that. And then I would forget it. You know, it's like the universe, whatever you want to call it, the creator will give you an idea. It's up to you at that point what you're going to do with it. It's not going to stay there.
Right.
And I've learned to write the idea down, write down enough of it so that I know where I want to go with it and then go back to it later. So it was that evening, you know, when I returned home that I wrote that.
You're so right about writing things down. As a actor and comedian now, I'm always, you know, observing for the comedic, the humor in things. So I come up with ideas, whether be it for skits or for satire or for even doing a stand-up show. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a funny viewpoint on a very ordinary situation. And then I'm like, I better write it down. So I carry, I
Yes,
carry,
indeed.
I carry a thick stack of note cards with me at all times just for that. So, here's the line I thought was a very beautiful line you wrote. An army cannot possibly hope for victory if they turn their weaponry against themselves.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
It's funny we tend to forget what we wrote because once it's out there, it's not mine anymore. It belongs to other people. So
that's a very giving attitude. And yeah, so that's that's a very well put line. And this has, military and what everybody's views are on it aside, that line in itself, I think anybody can understand that. And it makes so much sense, the metaphor there. An army cannot possibly hope for victory if they turn their weaponry against themselves. I mean, yeah, it's and obviously I took the metaphor as in this scenario is when we avoid change, when we avoid new ways of approaching or potentially improved and better ways of approaching the same task that we've been doing for our entire lives. When we avoid it, that is similar to turning your weapons on yourself, because it's like you're not allowing your mind to evolve, to grow. And as a result, you become more and more stagnant in your thinking. And this is all based on my own experience, but please elaborate if.
No, you're right on point.
And I feel like it's until you stop that tunnel vision of there's only one way, even though there isn't, there's more ways, but because you're safe in this lane and
Yes.
you feel safe, quote unquote, and then you start to look out. When you do look out, that's when you start to see, okay, I thought this would be way scarier than what it is. And then you start to be like, okay, let me step out this way for a bit. And then you see this whole, it's like colors to you, right? It feels like a whole, it's colorful. So, but when you did take this new route, was that the beginning of something new in your life, as far as like, oh, wait a minute, if I apply this to multiple areas of my life, it might.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My writing, I didn't listen to Mrs. Westfall, okay, and I branched off into different areas for a period of time. That we all make our mistakes, and I hadn't, except for spurts here and there, I hadn't written in a great deal of time, and oh golly, it was one of my nephews that he would constantly tell me, you're a really smart guy. You should go take some classes at, the local college. And I'm like, I don't want to do that, Well, it wasn't that I didn't want to, and I knew it. I was afraid of it.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say it, but I was. Yeah. It was something brand new. And, I wasn't a 20-year-old kid anymore. I'd, advanced in some years. And I'm like, I'm going to go in this class and there's going to be young students. And oh my God. So I would just put it off. And every semester without fail, he would chide me and he would say, just do it. Try it. Why won't you try it? And then finally, after about 3 years of this, he said, I'll tell you what. He said, go take one class. If you don't like it, I'll never bother you again. I promise. And I was like, well, if I'm going to do that, then I'm taking a full boat to classes. Do all or nothing. And so I did. And I was, working still. I was working a lot of hours. But I made it work.
Yeah.
Because, it was important to me. An interesting thing happened. I graduated high school with an overall, it's terrible, an overall C minus average. So I never thought I was really a smart guy, right? And when I took these, yes. And when I took these classes, and the first three I took were, psychology, because that's always fascinating to me, and sociology, and a brush-up course on English. Had to get that in there. And it's funny how things work out. The professor in the English class, and by the way, I pulled straight A's, 4.0.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm smart. I didn't know. And the professor in the English class, and this was supposed to be just a brush up, your adjectives, your verbs, and all that. Well, he had a different idea. And I believe personally, God had a different idea, because he's a lot smarter than I am, actually. And the professor was Lou Baltman, was his name. And the first thing he turned it into a writing class. It wasn't supposed to be that, but he decided that's what it was going to be. And it was cool because in the class, there were folks much younger than me, but age was not a factor. It wasn't at all. And the first piece I turned in with him, I even forget what it was now. And he took me aside the next day and he said, where did you get your training? And I'm like, I didn't. Well, no, what other classes have you taken? What other college? High school, that's it. And he looked at me and he was, astounded. And I mean, I'm not being arrogant, because any gift we have is given. It's not ours. It's up to us to use it, of course. But he looked at me and he said, you have a writer's voice. He said, what you write is amazing. And I can't wait to see what's next. What he did is the best way I can say it. And I thanked him at the end. He flipped on a light up here, the proverbial light switch for visualization, that had gone dark so long ago, and then the light just flooded in and I started writing like crazy, and I've kept it up ever since.
Man, it's beautiful. It's beautiful when we realize our gift, or when we are reminded of it, in this case, right? Because you were reminded at 14 when you first wrote it. And then now at this point, how long after was it when you were reminded again by your professor that you have a gift in writing?
Oh, good golly.
From 14 to...
Well, boy, that's terrible. But it's the truth. I was 43.
43. Okay. No, I only was curious because it happens to a lot of people, right? I mean, for me also, like, I've been a musician my whole life, but my true calling, if you will, has always been to be a funny guy and be an actor. And I've always loved theater. Theater, it was great because it's a hybrid of all three: music, acting, and comedy. So there's room for all of that. So I've always been a fan of that. But I never really took the acting and comedy too seriously until just like you, when you took the new route to see your mom and you realized, wow, it was clear. Or when the professor was like, you should write more, and it's just, those moments of clarity are priceless because they actually shape the rest of our lives.
They do.
And for the better, and that's what happened to me one random morning. I think it must have been a Friday morning, just a regular day. I just woke up and I just realized I'm meant to have comedy as part of my life. Like I'm meant to be funny. I'm meant to act. And it just I don't even know if it was a dream that I had, or I don't know what it was. It just it was just I wake up and I'm just it was like in front of me. I could almost see it. Like it was just like, Pej, what are you doing? This is what you meant to do. Go for it. For years, I didn't. Either pressure from, traditional family, not wanting to wanting to pursue a more safe route of a career and all of that. So, but that was ultimately in my own head. No one verbatim told me don't pursue acting and comedy. My parents were always, my dad was a big fan of my music, which is also not that traditional. But the comedy and the acting and all of that was just, for me, it was always like, nah, why would I do that? Right. It was kind of one of those deals, right? I questioned it and I questioned it. And then I was 33 years old that morning when I woke up. And then ever since then, like yourself, I just pursued it. And I realized that, I'm not that old yet. I still have time to pursue it. And some of my heroes in acting, the Morgan Freemans,
my goodness,
Steve Carell, these guys all got their breaks in their 40s, and Morgan Freeman even later, and so Kathy Bates, these are all great examples in acting that shows that it doesn't have to be done when you're young. If you love it, just pursue it, and don't do it for the fame. Do it because you love it, and that's exactly where my head is at now. So,
and maybe too. I don't know. I mean, I do look at it this way. It's that old adage, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Well, your mind was ready, like my mind was ready at that particular juncture when you were 33. But okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's I do believe in the saying everything happens for a reason.
Oh yeah.
And I believe that I believe that I was meant to go through my teenage years and my 20s figuring it out. And there's nothing against music. I've been a music teacher since I graduated college, and I don't regret it. I love my job. It's a fun field. Music will always be a part of my life. But
you'll know how I mean this when I say it. You're more than just your music, and it's not just music, because music is the greatest medium in the world. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're not just that. You were created with several layers, several arenas within you that you can step into. That's the beauty of it.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And that's all I'm doing, and I'm pursuing it. I'm 36 now. I'm 3 years in, and I've never been happier with this decision. That's
wonderful.
There's always confirmations, right? When you're when you're on the right path, it's like you're doing it. This is it. Keep going.
Yes,
even when you have hard days, there's one reminder somewhere that just pops up to tell you, don't let this dictate how you make your next decision.
Yeah, do not falter. No.
Yes, absolutely. Life isn't meant to be perfect. It's meant to be a journey, and I'm learning that the older I get. So,
if I can just throw something in here real quick,
please.
It's nothing to do with the book or anything, but and my own doctor looked at me in amazement just recently. I'm bad about getting physicals, and I was about 10 years overdue, and I went to him. He was a new doctor for me. He's the one that took care of my folks, and he really nice guy, very professional, very good. And so we had our initial sit down, and, he said, okay, now, what types of medication are you on? And I said, well, none. And he looked, he's like, what do you mean none? And I said, none, as in none. I don't take anything.
Yeah.
No blood pressure medication, no statins, no no, I don't take anything. I don't need to. And he said, that's amazing. He said, what do you give credence to that for? I mean, why? He said, everybody's on medication. And I said, well, I said, my DNA, I suppose. My people are long lived. I said, that's one thing. I said, two, I'm very conscious of what I put into my body.
Mhm.
I said, three, definitely not last on the list. I said, but God looks out for me real fine. And I said, and so the last one is something I told my doctor. I said, you don't realize. I said, but despite what's on that paper you're looking at, I'm only 38. And he looked at me, he says, what are you talking about? I said, well, when I turned 38, I determined that was a pretty doggone good age to stop aging. I said, so you're 38, you've made hopefully most of your mistakes, and you've learned from them if you're wise. Yeah. And at 38, you're still young enough to live a very full life. I said, so that's the age I decided I was not going to age any longer. And he laughed, and then he stopped, and he said, do you have any idea how smart that is? I said, well, I don't know if it's smart, but I do know that the mind dictates the body. It's not the other way around. I says, now chronologically, of course, I have gained some years. I said, but up here, I'm 38.
Yeah.
I said, my own guys, when I used to work 70 hours a week, they just looked at me in amazement. How do you, because it was a physical job, how do you do this? We can't even keep up with you. So anyway, I'm sorry.
That gives me 2 more years to make mistakes. So I'm motivated now. No, that's good. That's great. You're right. The mind is much more strong than the body, and it can will you to do things.
Oh yeah. Some of the oldest people I've ever met, and it's sad really, are 22 years old because they're old up here already.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, don't do that.
Yeah. No, that's great. Well, wonderful advice, wonderful points that you made. And for everyone, please go get yourself a copy of Midnight Musings. And you're also working on new literature. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yes, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
There's actually 3 of them. There will be another edition of. This is kind of what the book looks like there.
This is the book. Yes. Midnight Musings, William James. Yeah. Look that up on Amazon, Google. It's available online everywhere. But the new project that you're working on.
The way this book is written, excuse me, it can, I guess that's the right word for it. It can dovetail into the second edition. Okay. It's kind of like Chicken Soup for the Soul. Okay. There were many editions of that because of the nature of the book. And I'm working on, additionally, a children's book, which I just thought would be the easiest thing in the world, and it's not. It's rather difficult. It's a challenging thing.
Yeah.
So you have to begin to think like a child again.
Right.
Which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
It's not. My whole slogan on this podcast and on my online presence stems from thinking like a pure kid, because when we think with pure thoughts, 99% of the problems that are in this world aren't actually there. It's
thank you. Yeah.
It becomes clear that, oh, that's a taught behavior. It's not my internal instinct is to love these people or love this idea or be open-minded about a lot of these things. Right.
Yeah.
Over time, we get jaded, or we risk becoming jaded. We risk becoming closed-minded. tunnel vision, right? All the things we talked about in this episode, it happens over time.
Yeah, we develop cataracts of the mind, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But so that's great that you're in the works on this children's book. Is it going to be poems like Midnight Musings?
No, actually, and I don't want to give the storyline away.
Yeah, no, don't.
But,
Whatever you can shed
it's
light.
something. It's an actual story. The only thing I will tell you is it's based upon or based with the main character, his name is Sigmund, and he's a snail. Okay.
Okay.
He's a snail.
Okay.
And because what had happened, I went into the local bookstore at the time, and I was just curious what was out there for kids, you know. And I spent over an hour reading children's books. It doesn't take long to read them, you know. And I was dismayed. There's no life lessons here. There's nothing, you know. The majority of it. That's not right. These are minds that are being formed, you know. So I thought I'm going to take it upon myself to do that, you know, and offer something up. So, and then the other one I'm working on, which is kind of a unique spin. I'll just give you the title.
Yeah.
Okay. It's entitled "We the People." Well, you know what that reference is.
Right.
We the people, everything that is right about our government today.
Ah, okay.
It's going to have a real twist.
Yeah. That sounds intriguing. Absolutely sounds intriguing. Well, thank you so much, William, for joining Fumble Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me here. My goodness.
Absolutely. And I do want you to come back on when you do have those other books published. We'd love to talk about those as well. This has been episode 64. I'm Pej. You know me as PejTheManiac on my comedy channels. And this is Fumble Podcast. Yeah, it's a twist on Taz the Maniac. But yeah, so Fumble Podcast, episode 64, with author William James. Don't forget to subscribe on my YouTube channel. And I look forward to your YouTube channel. So keep me posted on that when that is ready.
That I shall do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks again, William, for coming on.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.